Thanks for joining us from the Ohio AgNet Voice You Know with the News You Trust studio. Sponsored by Family Forest Carbon Program, where we help family forest owners get paid to improve the health of their woods. I am Allison Kinney. In agricultural news today, a small win for the ethanol industry and corn growers. President Trump struck a win for the ethanol industry and the corn growers last week when he signed a congressional resolution to rescind California's electric vehicle mandate. California vows to sue the Trump administration. But for now, a Biden-era waiver that allowed the state to phase out the sale of new gas-powered cars by 2035 has been rescinded. President Trump signed the congressional measure ending the California ban and that of 11 other states and D.C. that followed California.
You couldn't buy any other car except an electric-powered car. And in California, they have blackouts and brownouts. They don't have enough electricity right now to do the job. And countrywide, you'd have to spend $4 trillion to build the firing plants, charging plants, firing plants.
California argued its rule would benefit both public health and the environment by reducing emissions. But the ethanol industry warned early on the huge California market for lower emission corn ethanol would evaporate.
If that is, in fact, what happens, yeah, it's going to have some far-reaching impacts on the fuel market, and by extension, it's going to have an impact on the corn market.
Renewable Fuels Association President Geoff Cooper.
California is the single largest consumer of gasoline when you look at all 50 states, and the single largest consumer of ethanol.
Trump also signed resolutions to overturn California rules that require most new trucks sold in the state to also be electric. But to pass the measures, Congress overrode rulings by the GAO and the Senate parliamentarian that the Biden-era approval was a waiver that couldn't be overturned like a rule.
Many drugs, like cocaine, methamphetamine, and non-prescription pills, are often cut with dangerous opioids like fentanyl. As a result, nearly 14 Ohioans die daily from unintentional overdoses. That's why it's important to carry naloxone, such as Narcan, a life-saving medication that blocks the effects of fentanyl and other opioids. Over the last 5 years, naloxone has saved over 83,000 lives. Help save lives and visit naloxone.ohio.gov to learn more and find free naloxone. Remember, if you see an overdose occurring, always call 911.
Last week, 2 federal agencies received reports that showed increasing demand for soybeans. The first change came in the monthly supply and demand tables released by USDA. In it, the United States Department of Agriculture projected a billion-pound increase in soybean oil usage year over year. Ben Brown from the University of Missouri saw that number Thursday and thought to himself, the only way that's going to happen is if there's some policy changes.
And that's what we got on Friday.
U.S. EPA released the RVO, or the Renewable Volume Obligations. Brown, an extension agriculture economist, says the EPA's announcement puts American agriculture on a path to use an extra 1 billion pounds of soybean oil in the new marketing year.
I think this really is a at least it's a multi-year, step in a domestic demand increase picture to help support soybean prices.
The announced RVO still has hurdles to pass. For instance, there is a comment period prior to the final ruling announcement. The EPA Renewable Volumes Obligation ruling comment period closes on August 8th.
A healthy body needs good food. This summer, the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce is sponsoring Sun Meals, a summer food program where kids eat free. Children under 18 receive healthy meals and no sign-up is required. Locations may be right in your neighborhood. Call 1-866-348-6479 or visit education.ohio.gov/kidseat for meal locations and times. That's education.ohio.gov/kidseat.
U.S. Ag Secretary Brooke Rawlings announced that American agricultural producers will have greater market access to Thailand and Vietnam and maintain access to Brazil. Actions by the administration include maintaining consistent access to Brazilian markets for U.S. dairy producers. Citrus and apple growers will be able to sell more products to Thailand, and stone fruit growers will face lower non-tariff barriers in Vietnam as a result of actions taken by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. American farmers and ranchers grow the safest and most abundant food supply in the world, said USDA Secretary Rawlings. Expanded access to Brazil, Thailand, and Vietnam will result in millions in added trade for the U.S. USDA also says these trade victories follow 4 years of inaction by the Biden administration, which caused the agricultural trade balance to go from a trade surplus under President Trump to an almost $50 billion trade deficit under President Biden. This market report is brought to you by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. July corn down 3 1/4 at $4.31 1/2. December corn up 3 3/4 at $4.38 3/4. March corn up 3 1/2 at $4.53 3/4. July soybeans up 4 1/4 at $10.74. November soybeans up 7 1/4 at $10.67 3/4. January soybeans up 7 even at $10.80 3/4. July wheat up 12 1/2 at $5.49. September wheat up 13 1/4 at $5.65 1/2. December wheat up 13 1/4 at $5.87. June live cattle down 3.77 at $223.25. August live cattle down 4.90 at $210.65. July lean hogs down 15 cents at $111.65, and August lean hogs down 87 cents at $111.80. This is the Ohio AgNet.